So, all right. So we're going to be getting into another PvZ here. This is Tempest versus Seiche. We saw Seiche play earlier.
Yep, Seiche is back. I think
that was
he
a
was
PvP.
the PvP, yep.
Yeah, so we'll get to see him in a PvZ this time.
Yeah, and actually kind of cool that we're going to see another PvZ series and kind of compare the playstyles. They have slightly different maps here, but I personally love this matchup, and seeing multiple people play it out, you really get a feel for the different ways it can go, because it can be really varied.
I do enjoy watching the matchup, and I think it's a fun matchup. I don't know. I struggle with this sometimes, but I'm getting better at it.
It's the PTSD, man. Just gotta go for some therapy sessions. You'll get over it quick.
Get over my Zerg fears.
That's right. I do want to say there's not too much you can point out early game, but Tempest did have kind of a bad split. He had an idle drone for just a second there, and everything counts. Like, that's the sort of thing that will actually make or break games if they're super even, because it just compounds. So just something to point out.
Yeah, especially in like this matchup, a lot of things are pretty razor thin. You got to get everything out on time, or you're just gonna be run over.
Yeah, and Seiche is gonna go for the forward pylon, so no one base shenanigans. See if it's gate or forge first, both very viable options. I think we haven't seen a lot of gateway expand in CPL, and honestly, I'm not surprised because it's a lot harder to pull off. But it's still possible, and you can definitely win games just by catching Zerg sort of off guard if they're not used to it.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed Seiche kind of using his probe to scout that third base there. Something you can definitely do if you know your Zerg's going to scout correctly, or the Zerg opponent's going to scout correctly. He actually scouted that third base to look for the Overlord to see if he was sending it up towards his natural. Because if he sees the Overlord there, he's like, okay, I know he's bottom left. But if he doesn't see the Overlord there, he's like, okay, I know he's not bottom left, I can scout somewhere else.
Right, it's sort of a game theory situation, because most Zergs are going to send that Overlord towards the natural of their opponent. So the first, depending on where you spawn, it's going to be a clockwise position. But you want that Overlord to hit that natural so you have as much info as fast as possible. But occasionally, because Protoss can take advantage of it by doing moves like that, maybe the Zerg doesn't go that way, and then the Protoss scout will be off. So it's a bit of a mind game. Like, there's never full information in a game of StarCraft.
Definitely a double-edged sword, and the Zerg could just not scout that way because he doesn't know the correct way to scout in the first place.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Sometimes you're playing games, and if there's a certain level where you can't take advantage of a worse player, and in fact they just being as unpredictable as they are winning versus you. Like, it happens in fighting games and like FPS games sometimes. Like, they're not dodging appropriately, I can't hit them. And the same is very true of StarCraft. Like, if you're expecting them to play a certain way and they just go like 6-gate zealot, and you're like, what are all these zealots doing here?
Yeah,
you could totally lose.
Bad, but because they're playing bad, then you're not expecting it, you just get run over. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that only works to a certain point. Like, eventually you get good enough that you can read the situation. But it certainly works at the CPL level, I will say that. So right off the bat, stylistically, we have Tempest going for that far natural as his third hatchery. So that is going to be a difference. We kind of talked about it when we mentioned Aztec as a 3-player map, but Hermu didn't opt for that in any of the games. And he caught the probe. Tempest caught the probe as it tried to get behind the mineral lines, but then he moved his Zergling away, so he is going to stay alive.
A bit unfortunate. Even before, sorry, going back a little bit, even before stylistically, I don't know if you noticed, but Tempest opened with a 12 hatch instead of where we saw her matchup opening Overpool every time. Overpool is definitely safer because if you open 12 hatch, Protoss can take advantage with the cannon rush just by building pylons and cannons behind the minerals, and it's hard to stop a Zerg. Just something to take note of. Like, I don't know the specifics of how that affects later on in the game by taking the 12 hatch versus the Overpool, but just another little difference to point out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think both the 12 hatch and the fast natural means that really Tempest is going to go for that super macro style. We saw Hermu game 1 wasn't afraid to go for that 3 hatch Hydra. Tempest is not going 3-hatch Hydra this game. I'm calling it now. I'm expecting to see a lot of drones. And that's definitely a style that works really well. Like once you get into a certain game state with Zerg where the engine is just, it's going, there's not much Protoss can do. So it's going to be on Seiche this game to stop Zerg from growing.
Yeah, and we do actually see Tempest threw down that 4th hatchery before a lair or anything. So he's opting to go for, looks like a 4-hatch Hydra.
Yeah.
Definitely a style. It's a little less common than say like a 3-hatch build, but it's something Zergs can definitely still do to throw off the Protoss.
So this is an interesting build, mostly because of the gas timing. So you'll see, so he actually goes up to 5 hatches here. It's not too uncommon to go 5-hatch, before the lair, but he took his gas early enough that this is kind of strange. So we're ending up with a decent amount of gas bank, which means he will be able to get his upgrades in his lair going. But I think he's hurting in terms of minerals. So if you look at his third, he doesn't have any drones mining there. And I think really this is not the most optimal playstyle, and going for 2 Sunkens now as well. With this many Zergling, I think is a bit overkill. Like there's 2 Zealots on the map, actually 3 rather, and 3 cannons. So you don't need to make a bunch of Sunkens at this time, and if those Sunkens could be drones, you'd be a lot happier down at this 3rd base.
And he's even throwing down like some more buildings down at the 3rd base, throwing up the Evo and the Sunken.
Yeah, so this is all fine. Like if your build includes these Sunkens, then by all means, go for them and play this Turtle Zerg style. But just be careful you're not making them too fast. And I think this is slightly too fast.
Yeah, those drones could have been mining, use that extra minerals to get your gas up faster, get your tech up faster, just anything else quicker, right?
Yeah, a lot of Zergs don't really appreciate how expensive a Sunken is, because it's not just the mineral costs, and it's not just 50 minerals for a drone. Like, if you have that drone and it's mining minerals, that's what you're comparing it to. It's the lost mining of that drone for the rest of the game,
For sure. And plus the cost of the Sunken and the Spore Colony. It's quite a big investment for Zerg, especially if you don't need to make it that early. Just having that, extra 30 seconds or something of mine, extra minute, extra 2 minutes where you didn't need to make those is gonna make a big difference for your builds down the road, like as the game progresses.
Yeah, at the very least, if you're gonna play this style with faster Sunkens, just go for 2 Zerglings. But if you go for 8 Zerglings, then you can delay them quite a bit. So it looks like Seiche did get that, did go for the 1 Corsair and did a bit of scouting around, killed at least 1 Overlord, which is nice. And now the Zealots are coming out. So this is the moment that, Tempest has been preparing for, and it's going to go straight for his 3rd base, which are actually, these Sunkens are timed really nicely. So if he just built the colonies at his natural at the same time, he'd be that much farther ahead. Oh, but he's lost track of the Zealots, so his Zerglings actually went to the wrong base.
Yeah, he's got a ton of static D here. He's like 4 Sunkens coming up here as natural plus 2 spores, and then he's got a spore and 3 Sunkens. It's like 8 drones there.
Yeah, this is total Turtle Zerg, which is fine. I think he just needs to make sure he takes that 4th base very quickly here. But you're just relying on those colonies to keep you alive, and droning really heavily. So we see a ton of drones. The one thing I'm a little concerned with this build is he's banked up a ton of gas. So something is off in terms of his tech, and it looks like he's building a Spire now. That's a little bit late. I think his upgrades might be a little bit late, but you really should never have that much gas unless you're already planning to go for 9 mutas, and this is too early to be banking for that.
He made quite a few Zerglings to this after he deflected the Zealots too. I don't think he needed to make that many. Like, he had enough static defense to hold off these Zealots. Like, sure, make a few more to help surround, maybe pincer them, but he made a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a little bit too much. Fighting out in the open too, after you've invested in so many of colonies, is not really the best choice. You just want these to help out and keep those Zealots from getting on top of your colonies. Otherwise, you're just being kind of inefficient. So I think all of these things combined mean that Tempest has kind of put himself behind, because all of these moves really are just giving him the opportunity to take that 4th base, and he hasn't done it yet. So he's put himself behind. He hasn't taken advantage of, you know, what he can take advantage of. And Seiche has just been playing safe enough and solid enough with his own builds that he's going to be able to take this third essentially completely uncontested.
Yeah, and despite not taking that fourth, it looks like Tempest gone up to a queen's nest. Maybe he's just planning to go for a hive here off 3 bases.
You know, I don't mind fast hive with the turtle style. You know, the hive tech is incredibly powerful, and if you're staying safe with this many colonies, that's fine. But doing it before the 4th base is a little early. Just if that hatchery were just building, you know, there are definitely times that he could have spared 600 or 300 minerals. You know, that's only a handful of Zerglings. I would have really preferred to see that. Now Protoss is going to start outgrowing. You know, everything we were saying about how this game should go, it's kind of true, except that Tempest has hamstrung himself by not having that base.
Now this is actually a pretty scary looking army coming in here. He does have a lot of static D, so maybe he can hold on.
He should be able to hold on, but the Zergling are out of position. If the Zergling were here right now, this would be a much better fight. Those sunken colonies wouldn't have gone down so quickly, and they'd be putting out a ton of damage.
Oh, nice
Great
storm.
storms!
Killing basically all the Zergling.
Yeah, so Tempest will be okay, but he's taking damage where, you know, he's invested so much in defense, he really shouldn't be taking damage. So now the Dragoons are actually straight up fighting Sunkens and Hydras, so that's not a really good trade for them. Backing out now, reinforcements are not coming in from both sides. It looks like they were a little slow to start. I'm seeing a lot of eggs, which means that you know, three larvae were probably built up. So this is going to continue to do some damage. He might be able to kill these front structures.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big loss, especially since as Rick keeps on saying, he's invested so heavily into defense.
Yeah, and I mean, Seiche is hammering away here. He's gonna kill that spore. That hatchery is about a little over halfway dead, and he's just sending like units into this Protoss army that aren't doing anything. Like just a few units here and there aren't able to kill anything. He needs like a big group of units.
Yep. So that's.
Meanwhile, Protoss is still continuing to stream units over. And like these Dragoons are doing a ton of damage just picking out the front of this wall. Like, it's actually starting to look pretty bad here for Tempest.
It is looking pretty bad because not only is he taking the damage at the wall, but he just keeps streaming those units and he hasn't been able to get a force to deal with this. And so at some point he is going to get completely run over if this just keeps up.
And it looks like Seiche is going to commit here. He's just going to like pull through, and I think he's just going to break him here.
That's what it looks like. There's only a handful of Zerglings coming in to defend. That's not nearly enough. He does have lurkers. It has a single lurker burrowed, but that's not going to be able to stop this base from going down.
Yeah. And I mean, Seiche does have an ob here. If he just moves that over, he'd be able to see the lurker and kill it.
Oh, yep, it is coming in now. Storm also hits it, so it's only 1 goon hit from death, and there it goes. And I think that's all she wrote. So, you know, all of those little moves that Tempest was doing in his build, just all of those inefficiencies, I think, built up. And, you know, having his units out of position didn't help. And at this point, there's nothing you can do. There's the GG. So, we're just a solid game out from Seiche. You know, Tempest, I like the mentality. I love that Zerg style, but he needs to get that build a little more solid.
Yeah, well played by Seiche. Take advantage of that. Yeah, going back to that, taking that far third, it goes back to knowing the idea of your build, knowing, you know, what the goal is of your build. So taking that far third, I think the main thing is playing that turtle style. Taking that far third is being able to secure your fort sooner, and because Tempest didn't do that, like Seiche was able to take advantage. If you're just gonna play off of a 3-base style, I think ideally you want to take it your third at the third base of Zerg, turtle up the ramp.
Yep, absolutely. It's much easier to defend up a ramp. It's closer, so you don't have to send units back and forth across the whole map. There's no advantage to taking the far third if you're not going to use the fourth.
Exactly. So it just goes back to what we were talking about in the first couple series there. Just know your build, know the goal of your build.
All right, so game number 2 between these guys. We'll have to see if Tempest goes for a different build, or if he executes that one a little bit better. Seiche, honestly, we weren't paying as much attention to what he was building, unfortunately, because we were focusing so much on Tempest. But it looked pretty solid in terms of its timings. That seemed like a nice standard PVZ opening.
All right. Let's jump into game 2 here and see if he can bring it back.
So we are returning to Aztec. So we have seen a PVZ in this game, on this map rather. This is mirrored positions. Last time we had Protoss at the top and Zerg at the bottom right. And this time is going to be the opposite of that.
Another orange Protoss.
Yep, another orange Protoss. That's the color of the day. Oh, and let me update the score as well.
All right. Also, I'll introduce the players here. We have at the top we have our blue Zerg down to game Tempest, and then in the bottom right we have our orange Protoss. I mean, pretty straightforward win last game. Seiche.
Yeah, he played very patiently. He had a solid build, and really just found a weakness that he could lean on and just killed the Tempest. So, you know, I like his style. I like that game plan, and I think it's really going to be up to Tempest to find ways to modify his game and make sure he survives.
Interested to see what Seiche has planned for his wall here. His pylon's like a little bit further back. I guess he's gonna try, but like
I was looking at that too. I mean, it doesn't look like a gate forge can really secure that.
yeah. I mean, I'll have to see what his plan is for this wall, but I know there's like a wall you can do with the pylon near that doodad. Okay, so he's gonna build.
I think the pylon near the doodad is the wall that we saw in the last series, but this is definitely a different structure. It looks like the gate here will be pretty good, but that's going to be at least 2 spaces, in addition to the space between the buildings.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to be tight on that doodad, and there's going to be a space between the forge and the gateway and to the left of the forge. So I think you could probably find a better wall.
The question
we'll have
is,
to see if that comes into play.
Yeah, will Tempest be able to take advantage of that? Because, you know, if you're not already planning on building some Zerglings, you don't even have the option. Like, if you go there with 2 Zerglings and you see, oh, this wall is not good and I can run by, like, run by with what? So you can't make those Zerglings after the fact. And based on the first game, Tempest likes his drones, so we probably won't see a ton of Zerglings. Although he did make 6.
Yeah. And he's got 2 more, so we are seeing 8 Zerglings.
Oh, so I take it all back. Tempest doesn't only like drones, sometimes he likes Zerglings.
Maybe he's well aware of the map, and he's like, okay, I know Protoss has a little bit harder time walling here, maybe I could take advantage of that. So I'll just build all these Zerglings early on, and maybe I can get a run by or something.
Yeah, very possible. So this is actually, well, you say he knows the map, he's not actually sending it towards a base.
Yeah.
So that's going to buy a little bit of time. Seiche is going to bring a couple of probes to block this off. Going to send one out to scout as well, so that's a nice move. And he's going to see these Zerglings. They might actually get... he's going to catch the probe. Nope. At some point you just go for the run by though. And 2 cannons here. Good probe block.
Oh.
That is not good. So I guess this is tight. Looked like the AI wasn't going that way at all. So this is a different wall than I'm used to, but it seems to be working pretty well.
Not bad. You got the gap on the left of the forge and between, so it's not too bad then.
Yeah, so that's just a 2 gap. Really surprised that that's tight on the right.
Yeah, yeah. You never know with walls in this game.
That's right.
So he did make that extra cannon. So I mean, he did force the extra cannon, but he lost all those lings, so I don't think that was really worth it for Tempest.
Yeah, if you invest in the 6 lings and then you force the second cannon and keep the lings, that's kind of even, you know, even-ish. If you lose the lings, though, you're definitely behind. So I think, you know, based on what we saw from game 1, you know, going for those lings, having them be completely ineffective, I think Tempest has an uphill battle ahead of him here.
What do you think about Tempest's 3rd base location here, the mineral only?
Yeah, that one's a little strange. You know, I guess it's sort of the close one. That's the close option, but yeah, I'm wondering if he is planning to just be aggressive. He doesn't have a lair yet. He's just getting a gas, This is the strange build. I'm not familiar with this build once again. It's a little strange. Last time he got his gas a little early. This time it looks like he's getting his gas a little late. It's kind of a four hatch timing, but it's a late gas. I don't know.
Yeah.
If he's planning to be super aggressive, then I kind of like this hatch replacement because you're not necessarily looking to turtle and need distance between you and Protoss. You want to be as close as possible. But if he's planning for a late game, then I think taking maybe another natural would have been a good choice on this map.
Yeah, like we saw him do that on Fighting Spirit last game, taking the other natural. I kind of expected to see it from this game, or even just another potential gas base. I don't know where else he'd take it. Maybe the base kind of to the left of where his main is, up that ramp or something. But again, I'm not a Zerg player, so.
No, I totally agree. I think that's absolutely makes a lot of sense in terms of playing to the map. These two zealots are going to come through. They're on the scouted as well, so these drones are forced to run. Luckily, he keeps them all alive, which is nice. But unfortunately, they are going to stop mining at this base and get into that nice, sweet mineral position. So those Zerglings are just going to take tons of losses clearing these out.
Yeah, one thing you could do is just wait until you get Hydras. Oh, because you do have the Hydra Den, just build a couple Hydras in range. The Zealots kind of force them out. I've definitely seen that done before. Zealots get there, just keep an eye on them, keep mining with your drones, and then if the Zealots come out, okay, then engage. But if they don't, just wait till you get your Hydras and attack them that way.
Yeah, and actually, so he clears them out. Throughout this whole process, though, he let his minerals go up quite a bit. So only now are we starting to produce. And we still don't have a lair, so I'm not sure what this build is planning to do. In some ways it seems aggressively timed in terms of when he's getting things. A 4 hatch is generally designed to attack, but he goes up to 5 hatches with a late gas and no lair. Like, all he can do is make Hydra Zergling. So what is the game plan from here? Are we just going to see a massive Hydra attack? But if we do, it's only from 5 hatches anyway, so it just seems inefficient. I don't think that this is a super solid build.
It's some kind of a 5 hatch Hydra build, I guess. Probably not, like you're saying, done optimally or efficiently. But he could still find some damage if Seiche isn't prepared for it. I mean, his Templar Archives isn't done yet.
Yeah, the main problem with this, if you're going to be aggressive, is with 0 lair and this timing, that there's no problem with making a Dark Templar, and there's almost nothing you can do, because two Corsairs on the map right now can stop any of the Overlords near Protoss' base, and then if you try to be aggressive with Hydras, just 1 DT will kill them all. There's nothing you can do to get sight over there. So the lair is coming. This isn't a planned build to go lairless. I think that was just a mistake to not get the lair in time.
Maybe just a little unfamiliar with his build or forgot. I mean, it happens. Yeah, you think you're building your lair and it didn't actually start.
Right, and you look back,
right,
a minute later, like, oh no. I think that's probably what happened here, because it just doesn't really make sense as a game plan. So we do have a decent amount of drones coming out, but this is about the time that you would normally see Protoss move out, and we do kind of see Seiche about ready to do that. He doesn't have the Zealot numbers that you would, because he did trade 2 of those earlier, but these are +1 speed Zealots, and there aren't that many colonies this time. There's not a lot of units. Now they're popping out, but he does have to defend 2 locations, and one of them's pretty close to Protoss, so he's got to be very careful here.
He's got a lot of Hydras coming over. I don't think he's going to take too much from this.
Yep, Hydras are in position this time, so he will be fine.
Yeah, and Seiche's just going to pull back.
Yep, and that's one of the benefits of taking a closer third rather than the far third. You can just have one group of units cover both of them, essentially. So in that way, it's almost a better situation for Tempest, in the sense that he doesn't have to run back and forth across the whole map, and actually catching a bunch of these Zealots out, so getting some good free damage here.
Especially if he could kill them off. It looks like they're going to get away, but a couple hits helps.
Every little bit counts. Corsair flying really close to that, almost got taken out as well, but managed to get out. And now we have Gateway Explosion out from Seiche, so he is still on 2 bases, but at some point he's going to have such a nice army to contend with. Whoa, Tempest is attacking into this.
Oh, I don't know about this.
That is such a money storm. I mean, there's no way that this is going to work. There's cannons, there's Templar. This is really surprising to see that decision.
Yeah, like the only way this works is if you know the Templar didn't have storms yet, like maybe the Protoss forgot storm or storm was a little too late or something. Then yeah, he could just do some damage here. But I mean, Protoss has storms. You kind of gotta expect at 10 minutes the Protoss is gonna have the storms. So
yeah, there's almost no way.
Throwing away units for, I don't know, nothing really.
Yep. Now Sage does trade a bunch of Corsairs for Overlords, which generally I wouldn't like to see. Like keeping those Corsairs alive is really important. But in this situation where Zerg kind of runs at your front and loses a bunch of Hydras, if you can supply block him right now, you might be able to end the game. And I wonder if that's sort of his plan. He's still being pesky. He's still got 3 or so Corsairs left, so finding some more slow Overlords, which are still slow because Lair was delayed. And Tempest has just been in the red for a while. Now that he popped a couple Overlords, he'll be able to start making units, but you know that was all Larva going into Overlords. He's in the red once again. This is giving Sage such a timing window to really do critical damage.
Yeah, and he is positioning his army out here on the. He could definitely move across and do some damage, because if he noticed, I'm sure he did, but the late Lair, he can definitely stay on this like Zealot Templar unit comp longer before transitioning into his Dragoon mass, and just punish the fact that he knows there's going to be no like mutas or no lurkers on the field, or they're going to be delayed as well.
Yeah, what stops this army is lurker or muta, and like you just say, they should know that that's not really an option. I mean, I guess it's if Tempest really built the Spire right after Lair was finished, he could be going muta now, so that is a possibility, but he's not going to have a ton. Oop, did I lose Snipe?
Hello?
Hey, you got drop screen for a second. I think we're good.
Yeah, I just saw you exited BattleNet, so.
Nice.
Cool. But we're still here. You still see the game and everything?
Yeah, no, it looks good. We just had a blip. Sage is going to take his third base here, which is a great choice, and I expect to see him attack, because that's sort of how you secure those bases as Protoss, and it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, this army is a lot stronger than what Tempest has just sitting in the middle. We do need a storm.
Oh god, this storm could be money.
Oh.
It's pretty good. Tempest just barely got a bunch of those Hydras out of there.
Second storm got a couple of units.
Yeah, and now coming in with some reinforcements, but there's still so many Zealots, actually storming a bunch of his own Zealots, so that storm did not work out super well. And he is going to run back, so Tempest is going to win this fight, just barely. I think he got a little bit lucky there in terms of how the storms fell. That could have gone much worse for him. But
yeah, and
you
the
know
storms
what?
were a little late.
Now it's not too bad for him. He's got a lot of drones. In fact, he's got a lot of drones. His third is like super saturated. He's getting a fourth base behind this, and you know he's managed to survive past that stage of the game from last game. And we'll have to see. You know, a Zerg that plays like this, you have to expect that he's going to be pretty strong in the late game, because that's what he's aiming for. So it looks like he's going to get there this time.
Yeah, he is building up lurkers too. He does finally have the Lair tech units out. Does Seiche? Okay, he does have a bow. I don't see. Okay, Observatory is just finishing now, so he should have obs in time to deal with any lurker aggression.
Yeah, so I wonder if the obs at this timing is a adjustment that he made based on what he scouted, or if that was you know, he was just trying to get it at whatever time he could get it, and this is where it fell. Because if it's that second choice, then this obs are definitely late. And versus you know, more aggressive, faster teching Zerg, that you could be really punished by that. You know, that third would not have gone up.
I do want to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because he did make more Zealots and Templar. Like, it looked like he was staying on the Zealot Templar comp a little bit longer as well. So I want to say he was aware of that.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. You know, just
and if he was very good, like, I mean, that's a good.
Oh, what
Good
is
thing
this? What is this slowling attack?
Why are they slowly?
So yeah, these lings should not be slow. Did speed just kick in like right there? Kind of looked like it. So it looks
Yeah.
like Tempest is trying to be as annoying as possible with these lings, and actually gonna, you know, keep Seiche a little off his balance. But now that all of the flanking units have been dealt with, there's just one front that Seiche needs to worry about, and he's got plenty of storms, so you really can't take a fight versus this at this stage of the game. Seiche is actually expanding himself, and these Zerglings might be able to get something done. But they are going to actually attack the Zealots, so unfortunately it looks like they will get cleaned out.
Oh yeah. They are up. Graded 2-0 Zealots for 0-1 Zerglings, so dying in 2 hits.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal. And actually, yeah, 0-1 on the, so it's 2-1 Hydras. So the 1 carapace is slightly behind, but in general his upgrades are pretty good. Protoss are as well, but Protoss is going to get away with this 4th base. I think that's sort of the story of this mid game.
And that's
wow.
Be good for him.
Tempest is being very aggressive with lurkers and just a money storm. Actually storms all of his observers, but he's got enough storm he might not care.
He has one more observer with his army, but that was pretty bad for Tempest. He lost a lot attacking into that.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons you can't be super aggressive with lurkers. Just positioning them that close to a Protoss army, there's no way to get them spread very quickly unless you have like 500 APM. And if you get them all stormed like that, that's so efficient. That's so many resources lost to just like 1 or 2 storms. So these lurkers are a little more spread, so they're getting a lot more hits.
And he sent the Zealots in first, they kind of just all died to the... He did keep some back, but all the Zealots he sent out front kind of just died to those lurkers.
Yeah, sort of half the army was engaged there for Seiche, the rest coming up now. But, they're kind of just fighting over the middle of the map right now, which is good for Protoss, because Protoss is securing this 4th base, Zerg is securing his own 4th base, and if they just keep trading, then that equation works out for the P army. Also, Protoss is nearly maxed, so just a few more supply, he's going to be very happy to be trading. Looks like Zerg just barely breaks through this 4th. There's 1 Hydra left.
The 1 Hydra.
He's going to take it down. The Hydra that could.
The Hydra's gonna put in work, he's gonna kill the next. No.
I'd love to see it.
Couple to clean up.
I doubt it though. So there we go, that base is still alive and well. Seiche does need to reinforce it at this stage. Oh, I see another drop screen. Snipe, don't leave me.
I'm still in.
Okay. We do have that hive tech on the way, and if you're just trying to guard this with a handful of zealots, then hive techs are gonna take that out, no problem. But there's not really a threat right now, just Seiche needs to deal with it in the next few minutes.
Yeah, both players' spending has been a little high the last couple of minutes. Seiche is just now maxed, so that's a little more understandable being maxed. But Tempest has a lot of minerals here banked up, not a ton of gas. I mean, part of that definitely goes to the fact that he took this mineral only 3rd. But he could find something to spend that on, like a bunch more Zerglings or maybe another hatchery producing a bunch of Zerglings or something.
Yeah, I agree that spending has been kind of high. He is going to expand down here to this low ground gas, but he really has never had control of the middle. Like, this is a very ambitious base to take, and the army's going to be there before the lurker's going to place. They're not even burrowing yet. They do get the burrow, but there are obs and goons right here, so all of these lurkers are going to go down. Didn't even get the cancel on the hash.
Been right, I don't know about taking that base. There's only 6 mineral patches here too, so it's not that great in terms of minerals. And just being on this low ground and hard for you to kind of reinforce down a small ramp to protect it, whereas Protoss can just engage it from a pretty wide area. I don't know about taking that base in the first place.
Yeah, that base is sort of available to the person that has the map control in the middle. It's not something that you can really be running defenses to when it's under attack. It's something that shouldn't be attacked, and you feel comfortable taking it. And that is not the situation for Tempest. He is sending units here now. So once again, fighting over the middle, but there's not a lot to gain right now here.
Units are just kind of spread out for both players here in this middle. Seiche is kind of getting his army back together now.
Yeah, a lot of his reinforcements were just sort of hanging out in different spots, but now he is getting that ball together. Looks like there was a slight attempt at a drop, maybe? I see 2 Overlords here, and I saw some units heading down. I'm not sure if that went down or not. But there's only 3 cannons and a couple of Templars, so this base is still under some threat. I think Tempest is just too far behind in terms of the middle to send units over there. But sending a bunch up this ramp with 5 Sunkens, this could go well for Tempest if he can get his units here ASAP.
But there's no reaction. He's not sending any units. He's just base. I mean, sure, there's no mining anymore, but that's still just 2 hatcheries and an Evo chamber that he could have used.
Yeah, you can see how many drones he had. If that base is mined out already, that's kind of crazy. You know, Protoss just mined out of their natural. Like, you shouldn't be mining out around the same time as a Zerg player. So that is definitely over droning. And at this point, losing these hatcheries.
Oh, storms going down.
Oh, right here, yep. So pushing up this ramp is probably not the way to do it. I think you really want to drop this base. But he may still get it. That's still a bunch of storms available. He needs to get these lurkers in the fight too, ASAP. And if this base goes down, he will have a fighting chance. He definitely has to stop this force knocking on his front door though.
Yeah, just a couple battles at different parts of the map here. He's
a lot of lurkers.
all his lurkers too.
Oh, these lurkers are actually outside the obs range.
Yeah. I didn't see the ones in the back.
Yeah, Seiche bringing the obs back now, but they did a ton of damage. They didn't kill all of the Templar, which is a pretty big deal.
He is still going to clean it up, and after this, he is 100 supply ahead now. Tempest did take that other natural on the left, which I would have liked to see him take that earlier, rather than trying that low ground base.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
Does he have anything to stop this, though? I don't really think so. Okay,
no, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, I mean, right there, he was pretty far behind. If he had managed to take out this Nexus and hold this base, then he was in a fighting position. But neither of those things happened, so I think that was GG. So solid match. Seiche showing just like really solid play. Tempest, I love that macro style. You know, that's kind of the way I like to play Zerg too. But you gotta tighten it up a little bit. There's too many inefficiencies, and you're not getting ahead in the late game like you want to be.
Just some things he could probably clean up in his build.